Sunday's storm should have been fading, but tonight, more than 100,000 Nashville homes are plunged back into darkness. Power lines snapped by relentless ice, and city leaders call it unprecedented. Families shiver through an unending freeze, schools are shut down, and nationwide fatalities are rising. If outages peaked days ago, why is this nightmare worsening, and what will it take for Nashville's long, cold wait to finally end? Mayor Freddie O'Connell stood before the city late Monday, his words echoing the exhaustion and anxiety gripping Nashville. He called the situation unprecedented, acknowledging not just the scale, but the relentlessness of the storm's aftermath. In his statement, O'Connell spoke directly to families trapped in darkened homes, recognizing the hardship of days without heat and the growing strain on patients across the city. The mayor emphasized that this was not a typical recovery. Trees continued to collapse under ice, undoing restoration work and keeping neighborhoods in a cycle of hope and disappointment. Across Middle Tennessee, the impact stretched far beyond city limits. Clarksville, Montgomery County issued district-wide school closures, citing unsafe roads and persistent outages. For thousands of students, classrooms would remain empty and routines would stay upended for days to come. School officials described the decision as unavoidable, pointing to black ice and the uncertainty of power restoration timelines. The human cost of Winter Storm Fern became clearer with each passing day. Emergency management agencies confirmed that storm-related fatalities had risen into the dozens nationwide, with Tennessee among the hardest hit. Local authorities reported deaths linked to exposure and storm hazards, underscoring the seriousness of the crisis. Mayor O'Connell urged residents to check on neighbors, especially the elderly and those without reliable heat, as the city mobilized warming centers and emergency shelters. In every official message, leaders acknowledged not just the technical challenge, but the deep disruption to daily life for families, workers, and students facing a nightmare with no clear end in sight. Inside homes across Nashville, the cold seeps in hour by hour. Sandra Welch, 71, sits wrapped in blankets in her Bellevue living room, a gas stove flickering in the kitchen and a cooler pressed into service as a makeshift refrigerator. She has been without power since Sunday. She says she is waiting for that miracle for the lights to come on, voice thin from 3 sleepless nights. The thermostat reads 48 degrees. Each morning she checks her phone for updates and finds nothing but vague estimates and outage maps that never seem to change. A few miles away, Drew and Katie Dolsom vent their frustration online. Katie posts that it has been awful, and she describes how Nashville electric service crews seem to vanish after the first night. They count the hours since the last flicker of electricity, boiling water on the grill out back and bundling their children in winter coats to sleep. Their neighborhood, like many west of downtown, has seen power return only to lose it again when another tree limb crashes down. Robert Thompson, forced from his dark apartment near Elgin Street, finds a cot at the Nashville Fairgrounds shelter. He shivers under thin blankets, and he remembers how the cold pushed him to leave. He says it was cold and he was freezing. Nearby, a mother soothes her toddler, both in hats and gloves, waiting for news. Patience, once stretched, is now threadbare. Residents call for answers. When will the lights come back, and will they stay on this time? The uncertainty is as sharp as the chill, turning each night into a test of endurance. For many, the crisis is no longer just about inconvenience. It is about lasting through another night with no promise of warmth in the morning. Ice accumulation across Nashville reached up to 3/4 of an inch in some neighborhoods, placing enormous strain on the city's electrical infrastructure. Utility poles, designed for far less weight, snapped under the pressure, and reports counted at least 280 broken poles by Tuesday evening, with numbers likely climbing as crews uncovered new damage. Each pole collapse brought down webs of power lines, instantly plunging entire blocks back into darkness. The engineering behind these failures is simple but devastating. As ice thickens on wires and wooden poles, the weight multiplies rapidly. A half-inch of ice can add hundreds of pounds to a single span of line. In older neighborhoods, mature trees loom over power corridors, their limbs already heavy with ice. When a branch gives way, it can tear down lines or even topple poles that had survived the initial storm. Restoration teams face a moving target. No sooner is one section repaired than another limb crashes down, forcing crews to double back. The cycle of repair and repeated outages has left many residents stuck in a loop, waiting for stability that remains just out of reach. The sheer number of pole failures and repeated tree strikes signals a crisis that cannot be fixed with quick patches. Each broken pole means a full replacement, often requiring heavy equipment and hours of labor before any lights can come back on. Restoration teams have swelled to more than 1,100 strong, with crews arriving from states as far as Florida and Ohio to reinforce Nashville's exhausted workforce. Nashville Electric Service operations leaders describe the effort as a logistical marathon, with line workers and vegetation crews rotating through 16-hour shifts, clearing trees and stringing new wire in freezing wind. Still, even this massive deployment faces hard limits. The city's grid depends on high-voltage transmission lines that feed power from the Tennessee Valley Authority. When those lines suffer storm damage or ice buildup, local repairs can only go so far. Nashville Electric Service Vice President Brent Baker explains that before thousands of crews can safely restore neighborhood lines, the backbone of the system must be stable. This means some neighborhoods wait longer, even as trucks and bucket lifts line the main roads. Hospitals and emergency services take priority, with utility dispatchers triaging repairs to keep critical infrastructure online. Only after these essential sites are secured can the broader restoration push into residential streets. For families watching the outage map, the reality is frustrating. Manpower alone cannot overcome upstream bottlenecks or the need to protect life and safety first. Stay away from any downed power lines. Never try to move them or clear debris. If you spot a line on the ground or tangled in tree limbs, call 911 immediately. Every line should be treated as live and deadly, even if the neighborhood is already dark. Emergency room doctors warn that most electrocutions happen when people underestimate this danger. If your home is running on a portable generator, keep it outside, far from doors and windows. Carbon monoxide is invisible and odorless, and exposure can turn fatal in minutes. Install a working carbon monoxide detector inside your living space and never use grills or camp stoves indoors for heat. Hospitals across Middle Tennessee have already treated patients for carbon monoxide poisoning this week. If the cold becomes unbearable or you lose all heat, head to a city warming center. Shelters remain open as long as the crisis continues, offering a safe place from the freezing wind. If you need help, text out to 637-797 to report your outage or check the Nashville Electric Service outage map for updates. Conserve heat by closing off unused rooms and bundling up. Safety now takes priority over comfort. Survival depends on following these steps. National Weather Service forecasters warn that the crisis in Nashville is far from over. The city faces a new round of hazards as the temperature drops and the remnants of Winter Storm Fern refuse to let go. Black ice, invisible and treacherous, clings to side streets and shaded highways. Even small stretches of road appearing dry in the daylight can turn deadly slick after sunset. Emergency managers caution that wind chills are expected to hover near zero for the next several nights, making exposure outside a real threat. For those still without heat, the difference between discomfort and danger narrows with every degree lost. Meteorologists point to a renewed freeze window. Temperatures will dip well below freezing again, hardening slush into solid sheets and setting up another round of refreezing. Any melted ice from the day will quickly return overnight, threatening to bring down more limbs and lines just as repairs begin to catch up. The weather pattern offers no easy relief. Each forecast update carries the same underlying message: stay vigilant. The risk of repeated outages remains high as long as the cold and ice persist. In a situation this unstable, even a single degree can tip the balance between recovery and another setback. Tonight, over 100,000 Nashville homes remain cold and powerless, a reminder that critical infrastructure is only as strong as our climate allows. As extreme weather intensifies, every outage exposes what is at stake. The next storm will not wait for lessons learned. Share your thoughts and stay safe out there.